So hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to DispatchTrack's webinar to review our newest industry vertical solution, DispatchTrack for food distribution. My name is Dan Shim. I'm the head of product marketing here at DispatchTrack. I'm happy to be here today to share with you our newest solution, and I am joined by my colleague, Chris Peel, who is our head of solution engineering, and he will be walking us through an interactive demo later this session. I do want to set the stage real quickly to talk about the last mile delivery industry for food. It has become quite large. As of 2022, the food distribution last mile industry stood at a market size of about $28 billion, growing in double digits out into the year 2030. And it employs over 400,000 individuals in some of the most key roles that you may be familiar with. And we can see that the last mile industry has come a long way. What was once considered a fringe service is now at an inflection point where it is maturing as its own industry. And as it matures, some of the transformational trends that can be detected are noted on the page here. One, expectations on customer experience, the need for error-free accuracy, and the speed in which the industry moves has spiked considerably. And at the same time, profitability, the availability of time, and team collaboration has dropped off. And in this environment, we here at DispatchTrack emphasize 4 key pillars to keep in mind if you want to win in this dynamic industry. First, you have to be technology enabled. And the companies that embrace technology will be the ones moving ahead. In addition, keeping an eye on the profitability has become a key tenet of any successful last mile delivery operation. And any successful solution would also need to be in tune with the needs of that specific sector to be directly applicable. Last but not least, having the technology that can evolve over time to introduce new features as the industry evolves and changes is the key to ensuring that your operations will stay relevant and future-proof for years to come. Now, the last mile delivery journey for modern food service distribution has many steps and many challenges. From the distribution center to the final confirmation and delivery, food distribution has several phases as illustrated in this diagram. In the first phase, from the DC to the regional hub, once the customer order gets generated, at the distribution center, the right pallet of inventory is identified and stocked onto the shuttle shipments from the distribution center to the appropriate regional hub that's closer to the customer's final destination. From the regional hub to the customer, the routes need to factor a variety of customer availability times, which in food can be a wide range. Some customers are available to receive inventory across multiple time windows. Some require extended distance delivery across multiple days. Some customers have large orders that may require several reload trips to the regional hub, and yet some customers absolutely need that inventory to be available in the next morning, which requires before midnight deliveries. Once the driver is en route to the customer site, the customer needs to be aware of the pending delivery to ensure completion, and a proof of delivery is captured. And finally, the sales account reps follow up with the customer post-delivery to ensure satisfaction, confirm the accuracy of the deliveries, and to plan future deliveries. To make things even more complicated, at each of the critical phases of last mile delivery, the team members that are involved are also different. At the DC, the warehouse employee identifies the right pallet and inventory to load onto the shuttles. At the regional hubs, the dispatcher creates daily delivery plans and communicates to both drivers and customers the details of the deliveries. Each of the truck drivers are informed of specific delivery instructions and also are responsible for engaging with the customer, doing some merchandising, and ensuring proof of delivery. The routing engineer oversees the entire process from a bird's eye view, creating fixed routes that factor in customer availability, capacity constraints, service times, and hours of service specifications, but also continuously optimizing across the entire business to identify areas for improvement. And finally, the sales representatives follow up with customers to make sure everything is done as they wish. So to show you how DispatchTrack approaches food distribution, I wanted to walk you through a conceptual overview of our strategic planning features. Strategic planning for DispatchTrack is really about planning ahead, simulating the future, and being proactive, not reactive. For example, if you look at the 2 simple scenarios on this page, the first scenario shows advanced planning with DispatchTrack, and the scenario below that shows a more reactive approach. The first route under both scenarios is the same, a simple delivery during the customer time window. But on the second route, it looks like the customer is asking for additional loading and stocking services, which may extend the time window that is necessary. Now, with strategic planning from DispatchTrack, you can factor in the additional service time needed and provide customers in Route 3 and Route 4 realistic time windows on when to expect their deliveries. In contrast, with reactive planning, yes, you can provide customers that additional service in Route 2, but when it comes to customers in Route 3 and Route 4, you promise them a certain time window that may be missed because you weren't able to create a plan ahead of time. Now, if this seems pretty simple, try multiplying this scenario by the number of trucks that you have in your fleet and the number of routes that each truck does on a daily basis. With that much scale, the issues with reactive last mile delivery start to really compound. And a lot more customers will be disappointed with the lack of accuracy, and your team will be frustrated with poor guidance and directions. But that's not where strategic planning with DispatchTrack stops working. Once you have all of your routes planned, you can visualize every single one of them in our system all at once. And then our AI algorithms will go in and optimize those routes automatically based on time windows, time to service customers, day of service, frequency, and all other parameters to suggest for you adjustments to your routes to make it more optimized and profitable. Finally, your team has clear directions and guidance on how to execute on the day of delivery, and you can be confident that they will have the most ideal routes to drive profitability and customer satisfaction. DispatchTrack for Food Distribution is our industry vertical focus software as a service solution that is purpose-built to meet all of your last mile needs. We are a software as a service platform and available for your entire last mile team to access the tool online. And we are always evolving and updating our platform to avoid painful upgrades and integrations. The solution is built with the flexibility and speed that the industry needs to digitally transform the entire last mile journey from beginning to end, from the VP of logistics to the driver making the delivery. Your entire team works off the same instance and data set for every component of the last mile delivery, and we have made a particular focus on providing you the tools and insights to make economically justified decisions to drive profitability. At this point, I wanted to pivot over to my colleague, Chris, to take a peek inside DispatchTrack's system and to walk us through a few of our distinctive capabilities in real life. Chris, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dan. I really appreciate all that great insight into the food service network distribution and strategic planning that DispatchTrack has to offer. What I'm going to demonstrate are some of the different tools that we have within strategic planning, which will align with the message that Dan presented just a few minutes ago. DispatchTrack is a full SaaS tool, all online, and it gives you the one single platform, whether it be for strategic planning through to daily routing or execution that your business needs for food service delivery. So what we're looking at here is our strategic platform. And within this, we have 3 different distribution centers. In my example, I have 2 distribution centers, one in Fort Worth and one in Dallas, that have product. And then there is a smaller distribution center, which is a delivery hub that is just a vehicle base. We will layer on top of that all the customers for this area. And part of what DispatchTrack Strategic Planner does is it allows you to take into consideration all of the different options against the customer and all of the preferences against the master data for these customers that Dan mentioned before. Time windows, when do those customers require certain deliveries? How much time does it take to deliver? What is the average cycle demand of those customers? And we can take all of that into consideration and be able to visualize those on the screen, be able to take that into consideration during our route optimization. So as I'm going through and looking and representing, I can see what's the average cycle demand per week for these customers. What are their requested days? They may have a cycle of 1 time a week, 5 times a week. And our strategic planner is going to take all of that into consideration when performing an optimization. It's as easy as selecting, circling, and auto routing. Obviously, there are some parameters set in the background. Once the auto route takes place, the strategic planning tool provides you a completed optimization of those customers and a representation of those routes that are built for week by the distribution center. we have the different routes for both of our product hubs as well as our delivery hub down in Waco. There are a lot of intuitive tools within the strategic planner that provides you insights. As a route engineer, some of the things that I'm going to want to preview are the detail around each one of these routes. Being able to visualize by day of the week, by week, all of the different details around how these routes are created, the different constraints that they've taken into consideration, and each one, each day, each route, each week can be visualized, as well as looking at the detail of how the route has been sequenced and an actual cost against the route based on a number of factors that we put into place. Each one of these routes can be visualized not only as the crow flies, but we can visualize these as the driver would have driven over the road, and being able to take into account all of the different parameters that Dan had discussed before. We can also do different functions within the strategic planning tool to change the way the optimization is done as far as least distance, optimized by time windows. There are different parameters that we can provide that would allow the information to be adjusted and changed on the fly. The same thing goes for manipulation of the data. I can see all of the detail around the summary, a really clear indication of total distance, total stops, total duration for each day of the week and across the week as I'm building these routes and seeing those change in real time as I'm doing things like maybe I need to move or make some adjustments and move things between routes. For example, if I wanted to make some adjustments and move one of these stops to a different route, it's as simple as just dragging and dropping it into that route, and you'll be able to visualize those changes, and you'll be alerted for different breakage or different exceeding of capacity, whether it be based on cases, weight, cube, pallets. That is going to be a clear indicator, the little star that you're seeing there, that route has an exception against that. So really quickly able to make changes to routes manually, but also see if there was a constraint that I have broken or that's not been met for that particular route. What's really powerful here is the time that it takes to do the reroute, but also what's really powerful is we're not just taking those routes for those particular days and just optimizing that. What DispatchTrack does is within the algorithm, what it does is it takes the day of service into account, frequency as well. And if we can move those days from one day to another to create a better optimization and save cost, then we will move those to a different day. You can subsequently lock the days. If you have a tier 1 customer that has to have a delivery on a specific day, those days can be locked. A really great tool that allows you to optimize not only your existing current setup and network, but also provide what-if scenarios. So we could lock all the days. We could then create what-if scenarios for different holiday routes, Thanksgiving, Christmas, different events. We could also create different what-if scenarios for things like fleet changes, onboarding of new customers. The really intuitive piece about DispatchTrack is all of those parameters are stored within our SaaS platform. And once you are able to visualize those, you can save those in different strategic plans. Those strategic plans, you can hold as many of those as you want to. What I'm going to demonstrate today is once you have those routes created, and once you've created a base plan, a lot of you in the food service distribution store a combination of static and dynamic routes, and some mostly static. This will help you create those and do reroutes based on changes and really impactful changes in the business. For example, if I want to take a plan that I've done a reroute for this year and save that so that the teams can execute those and route those on a daily basis, we can simply state, I want to create a new plan, and we can say, this is my 2024 DFW base plan. I can create that plan. That generates a plan that I'm then able to execute against on a daily basis. As orders are dropped into DispatchTrack, those orders will automatically be applied to the routes during the optimization phase that you have set up during that planning phase of the strategic reroutes. Now I can visualize these routes by day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on and so forth. And I can make changes ad hoc to those, which I'll be able to visualize by day of the week. And I can see exactly what customers or what sequence they're in. And I can make changes ad hoc for that plan. But what I've done within a matter of minutes is I've created a plan. I've taken that and I've applied that plan to daily route schedules that I can then execute against. I can then lock those routes if I wanted to. So for example, if I had really fixed or rigid details that I need to stay within to say each one of these customers has to be on this route in the sequence, I can lock that in. I could also leave it, and that's what is represented by the red pins. Green pins will represent that it has to be on this route, but it can be in any sequence. This gives you the ultimate flexibility from a daily dispatching service. So as we move forward through this progression of creating the schedules for optimization, once the schedules are in place and we are able to execute upon those, one of the other items that Dan mentioned that we're able to handle is a very unique opportunity for shuttle routes. As I mentioned before, we had 3 different distribution centers that we were working from. Those distribution centers were in Fort Worth, Dallas, and Waco. If you recall, the Waco distribution center is just a vehicle hub. So we need to be able to get product from one of those product hubs, Fort Worth or Dallas, down to Waco in order to meet up with the drivers to deliver that product to the final customer. So the way we do this is a shuttle creation platform, very intuitive and very easy to use, just like all of the tools within DispatchTrack. What you're seeing is a representation of some of the routes that we created in Waco. Those routes are smaller trucks that we need to get the product from Fort Worth or Dallas down to that location, as mentioned before. It's very simple and straightforward to do. We're going to create a shuttle for these 2 routes, and we can consolidate that onto one shuttle location, and we can create that. And what's going to happen is that creates a shuttle route for us that is we're then able to service and utilize for visualization. What happens during that shuttle creation process is these shuttle routes are created onto a service unit. That service unit, we can now visualize and see that shuttle route. On the backside of this, we're also building in the timing that it takes for that shuttle driver to get to the delivery hub. So we're now able to connect 2 pieces of the business by visualizing and being able to track shuttle drivers, send very important alerts to the delivery drivers, allowing them to see ETAs, updated ETAs on when the shuttle driver will arrive at the delivery hub location where those vehicles are located. This really ties back together everything to make sure that your delivery drivers are in the know of when that product will arrive, and really making sure that we're being proactive if there are any delivery ETA delays to that shuttle location. So as all of this is taking place, each one of these, whether it's shuttle drivers or delivery drivers, can utilize our mobile application for the delivery execution. What I'm going to demonstrate right now is the driver execution on the delivery app. What the driver has the ability to do is get everything from real navigation based on commercial vehicle navigation, communications, being able to text ahead to the location they're delivering to, whether it's a delivery hub or a final customer, being able to deliver orders by item level or by a pallet SKU. So in the example that you're seeing here, we have a pallet SKU, 88599, with a total of 3 different SKUs or case SKUs that are being delivered. The driver can simply scan that one pallet SKU and deliver that entire pallet, taking into consideration different exceptions as well. On the other side, we have a great visibility tool for your salespersons who are out on the road constantly. This salesperson app allows visibility to each one of these deliveries that are taking place. And it's independent of which route those deliveries are on. It's based on the customers that that salesperson is assigned to. So they can see in real time what drivers are doing, have they started jobs. They can see within that job, if they want to meet the truck, it will line up the GPS to be able to meet the truck for the salesperson. They can see all scheduled deliveries across a calendar view and average case count, on time delivery, and for a full visibility of what's going on with their customers to be proactive, make those phone calls. So as you can see, we have a full end-to-end distribution model for all the way from the strategic planning all the way to execution and salesperson views. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Dan.
Yes, thank you for that, Chris. Very comprehensive. One thing I did want to mention as we were walking through your demo, a lot of changes, right? Nothing is really set in stone. The flexibility that you need with a really dynamic industry like last mile delivery, I think it's worth saying that those adjustments and the tweaks that you were making, that's relatively hard to do in other platforms. With us, we kind of factor that into the experience of the user and making sure that we're able to actually accommodate changes, because nothing really stays static, right? Everything's moving dynamically and things are changing very frequently. And I think being able to keep pace with the speed of the industry, that's what we really want to emphasize with this product. Okay, so I think that will be it. Thank you very much for attending. This was a pleasure of mine, as well as Chris, to share with you some of the key thoughts and ideas that we have on DispatchTrack and our latest vertical solution for food distribution. And if you have any follow-up questions, you see my email address there on the bottom, dan@dispatchtrack.com, pretty easy to remember. Please go ahead and drop me a line. I'll be happy to provide any sort of clarification or answers to your questions.